It all started with a signal, faint, almost imperceptible, lost within the background noise of the Epsilon Eridani system. We weren't even supposed to be there. The mission was simple, a routine planetary scan of a gas giant. But the signal, it felt like it was calling to us, mathematical sequences, repeating with impossible precision. Not natural, not human. Tracing the source was the easy part. Following the frequency, we arrived at the orbit of a rogue planet. A cold, dead mass drifting alone through space, and there, hidden in its shadow, we saw it. A space station, floating in complete silence, vast and ancient, constructed from alloys our scanners couldn't even identify. No obvious signs of life. But there was something about it, a presence that chilled us all. It was still active. As we slowly orbited, the sensors confirmed it. Modules still rotating, power systems operating at minimal levels, and a faint electromagnetic emission as if it was waiting. The commander turned to me. "What do you think it is?" I didn't know what to say. I only knew one thing. This was not built by humans, and yet there it was, silent, and somehow alive. We debated for hours. Some argued to leave immediately, report the find to Earth and let someone else risk the unknown. Others, like me, knew we couldn't walk away from this, not from something like this, a structure impossibly ancient, still active, hidden in the shadows of a rogue planet, waiting. The decision was made. We'd dock. Our approach was cautious. Thrusters on minimal power, sensors at full sensitivity. The station loomed larger with every passing second. Surface readings, complex, alloys highly resistant to radiation, temperature, stable energy emissions, low but consistent. As we neared what looked like an external docking bay, something unexpected happened. The docking clamps extended on their own. No signal, no commands, just mechanical arms reaching out, guiding us in with eerie precision. The comms officer turned to me, his voice a mix of awe and dread. "It's helping us dock." The ship shuddered slightly as the clamps latched onto our hull, sealing us to the station like a fly caught in a web. External lights flickered on around the bay, illuminating ancient symbols carved into the metal, glyphs that twisted in ways our eyes couldn't fully process. Not letters, but something else. Something older. The airlock cycled automatically, repressurizing as if the station already knew the exact specifications of our vessel. I checked my suit's seals one last time. Our weapons, loaded but set to non-lethal. We didn't know what was inside, but something had just invited us in. With a hiss of decompression, the inner airlock door slid open. Beyond it, darkness. A long corridor, walls smooth and seamless, reflecting our helmet lights in distorted patterns. The floor was stable, but strangely soft, absorbing each footstep like it was alive. Atmospheric readings. Oxygen present. Pressure. Optimal for human life. How could this station, abandoned for who knows how long, still be habitable? As we moved deeper inside, the airlock behind us sealed with a mechanical clang. The medic glanced at me. No turning back now. And he was right. We were inside. The faint hum of machinery resonated through the walls, barely audible but ever present. Lights embedded in the ceiling activated in sequence as we advanced, illuminating. A path as if the station itself was guiding us deeper. Then we saw them, rows of pods, hundreds of them, lining the walls of a vast chamber, each pod filled with a translucent fluid, and inside, figures, humanoid, but not human. The commander whispered, "Are they alive?" Our medic ran a scan. The readout pulsed in the HUD, biological activity detected heart. Rate slow but present, suspended, or perhaps hibernating. Before we could react further, the lights above flickered rapidly, and a low-frequency tone vibrated through the entire station. The pods began to drain, fluid receding slowly as the shapes inside began to stir. We raised our weapons, hearts pounding, minds racing. No one spoke, we just watched as the first of the figures opened its eyes. dark, reflective, utterly alien. Then, our comm systems burst into static, quickly resolving into a voice, mechanical yet layered with something almost organic. A single phrase, "Welcome back." "Back?" The medic looked at me, his face pale under his visor. What does that mean?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because in that moment, the station's systems surged to life all around us. Lights fully activated, doors unlocked with a sequence of hydraulic hisses. Engines, somewhere deep within, began to hum. The station wasn't abandoned. It had been asleep. And now, we had woken it up. The sound was everywhere now. A low, resonant hum that vibrated through our suits, through the floor, through our very bones. The station was waking up. Around us, the pods continued to drain, their ancient fluids gurgling. As the figures inside began to move, their limbs extended in unnatural ways, joints bending at angles we couldn't even comprehend, their eyes, if you could even call them that, flickered with a strange bioluminescent light. None of them made a sound. They just stood there in their pods staring at us, through us. The commander barked, "Weapons up!" But something inside me knew it wouldn't matter. If these things wanted us dead, we'd already be gone. Then the station itself shifted. The walls, smooth and seamless moments ago, retracted into complex patterns, exposing conduits, mechanisms, and vast chambers beyond. Lights pulsed in sequential waves down the corridor, ahead beckoning us deeper into the heart of the station. The voice returned through our comms. Same tone, mechanical, layered, alien. But this time, a new phrase. "Follow." The commander shook his head. "This is insane. We should fall back now." But where could we go? The airlock had sealed the moment we stepped in. Our ship, completely cut off. Athena, our onboard AI, reported that the station's systems had remotely overridden every one of our ship's control protocols. We were prisoners, or guests. Harper, the medic, whispered, "It's like it knew we'd come." I took the first step forward, following the illuminated path, because honestly, what choice did we have? The corridor opened into a vast atrium, miles wide, with a vaulted ceiling lined with panels that displayed constellations I didn't recognize. Planets, stars, entire galaxies, some spinning in real-time orbits, others frozen in impossible geometries. At the center of the atrium, a massive holographic projection, data streams flowing vertically like waterfalls of light, and in front of it, an interface, clearly designed for manipulation but not for human hands. The bioluminescent figures from the pods moved silently past us, taking their places at various terminals around the room. Their motions were methodical, synchronized, like they were following a script written long before we were even born. Then the voice spoke again, integration commencing. The floor beneath us pulsed with light, and suddenly our suits' HUDs exploded with data, streams of symbols and sequences in languages we couldn't even begin to translate. Our biometric sensors went haywire. Heart rate spiked, temperature. Regulation failed, neural activity off the charts. It felt like something was trying to interface with our minds. The commander screamed, "Get it off! Shut it down!" But there was no shutting it down. Athena's voice cut through the chaos. "External systems override, integration process, irreversible." I clutched my helmet, my vision blurring as images I couldn't explain flashed through my consciousness. Planets I'd never seen, technologies beyond comprehension, beings of light and plasma, all streaming into my mind like a flood with no end. And then, as suddenly as it had started, everything went silent. The lights dimmed, the data streams halted, the alien figures froze in place, and the voice, soft, almost compassionate, complete. We gasped for breath, disoriented, some collapsing to the floor. But as I looked around, something felt different. Not just about the station, but about us. I could feel something in the back of my mind, a presence, or maybe a connection. The commander staggered to his feet. What did they do to us? Before I could answer, the walls shifted again, revealing another corridor. And the voice, final, undeniable, "Proceed." I looked at the others. No one said a word. We just followed, because at that point, resistance wasn't even an option. We walked in silence, deeper into the station. The corridor stretched endlessly, twisting at impossible angles, bending in ways that made no sense. Our instruments showed that we should be moving in circles, but we weren't. Each step brought us closer to something immense. The walls here were different, less mechanical, more organic. Pulsing veins of light snaked through the structure, as though the station itself was alive, breathing in slow, deliberate rhythms. Every so often, a faint pulse would reverberate through the walls, timed perfectly with the steady hum that now never left our ears. It wasn't just sound anymore. It was a presence, always there, always watching. Then we reached the core chamber, a massive spherical room, hundreds of meters wide. At its center, a colossal orb, suspended in midair by invisible forces, pulsing with energy, layers of translucent surfaces rotating in opposite directions, like some kind of impossible clockwork. Our AI, Athena, tried to analyze it. The readout was simple: unknown, no comparable data. Around the sphere, more of the bioluminescent figures had gathered, some interfacing with consoles, others standing perfectly still, as if waiting. We approached cautiously, weapons still drawn but utterly useless against whatever this was. Suddenly, without warning, the orb emitted a beam of light that shot out across the room, enveloping us in a warm but paralyzing glow. Our suits froze, our limbs locked in place. We couldn't move. We couldn't even breathe. The voice returned, this time louder, clearer, almost as intimate, analyzing. Our bioscanners went wild. Internal scans, molecular breakdowns, neurological mappings, all conducted in real time, all far beyond anything our technology could do. Then, silence. The light receded. We collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. Disoriented but intact. No damage, no pain. Just a strange sense of being catalogued. The commander cursed under his breath. They just scanned everything, every single part of us, the voice answered, as if it had been listening all along. Confirmed. Compatible. Compatible. For what? Before we could process that, a section of the chamber wall retracted, revealing a staircase spiraling downward into a dark void. At the top of the stairs, another phrase. Proceed to integration. Harper looked at me, panic in his voice. Integration? What does that mean? None of us knew, but we all understood one thing: whatever this station was built for, we had just passed its tests, and now it was ready for the next phase. The commander took the first step onto the staircase, his rifle gripped tightly, though we all knew it wouldn't help. One by one, we followed him down, leaving the core and descending into the depths of this ancient, alien machine. With every step, the air grew heavier, not physically, but mentally, like something was pressing down on our thoughts, making them slow, foggy. Athena's voice cracked through static. Cognitive interference detected. Proceed. With caution. But we had already gone too far. Turning back wasn't just impossible. It didn't even feel like an option anymore. As we descended, strange markings lined the walls, symbols, patterns, shifting in real time as though they responded to our presence. Some seemed familiar, almost like fragments of human scripts, but distorted, alien. Harper stopped suddenly, his eyes wide. "Guys, I think I can read this." We all froze. How? These markings, they weren't human. But as I stared at them, he was right. They began to make sense. Concepts, instructions, even warnings. One phrase burned itself into my mind. Once begun, cannot be reversed. I swallowed hard. Too late for second thoughts now. At the base of the staircase, the passage opened into a smaller chamber. In its center, a single pod, larger than the others. Empty, open, waiting. The voice whispered again. Integration chamber ready. The commander looked back at us. His expression was no longer fear. It was acceptance. Without a word, he stepped forward and climbed into the pod. The walls of the chamber pulsed with a rhythmic beat, matching our heart rates exactly. Then, as the pod sealed shut around him, the voice spoke one final time. Integration commencing. We stood there helpless as the machinery surged to life around him, and the true purpose of this station began to reveal itself to all of us. The pod sealed around the commander with a soft, final hiss. No alarms, no resistance, just silence. We all stood there, frozen, watching the translucent panel slide into place, obscuring his face. Through the condensation and shifting internal lights, we could barely make out his form, motionless, suspended. Then, the machinery engaged. Cables extended from the walls, connecting to ports we hadn't noticed before. A thin, glowing liquid filled the pod, submerging him entirely. Monitors activated above, displaying sequences of alien symbols alongside rapid streams of biometric data. Athena's voice struggled through static. Vital signs, now stable. Pause. Neural activity. Accelerating. Accelerating. Suddenly, the pod's surface lit up with projections, not just readings, but memories, scenes from the commander's life, Earth, his family, training missions, all flashing in rapid succession, being captured, no extracted. Harper staggered back, his voice barely a whisper. They're taking him. The realization hit me like a punch to the chest. This wasn't just a scan, it was assimilation. The alien voice returned, smooth, measured, and inevitable. Integration at 17%, 23%, 46%. We watched in horror as his vitals spiked, heart rate doubling, then tripling, before flattening into a steady, inhuman rhythm. His brain activity was off the charts, neural pathways lighting up like a supernova. But his body, still, completely still then. The voice shifted tone. Cognitive synchronization complete. The pod's surface darkened completely, severing our view inside. The machinery powered down. The cables retracted. Silence. I rushed forward, slamming my fist against the panel. Nothing. No response. No sign of life. Athena's voice confirmed the worst. No detectable vitals. Harper screamed, "They killed him!" But I wasn't sure because even as the pod sat silent, the symbols on the surrounding walls shifted, rearranged themselves into a new sequence. Then the pod opened. The liquid drained, hissing into unseen channels. The commander's body slumped forward slightly, suspended by harnesses. But as the restraints released, he moved, slowly, mechanically. He stepped out of the pod. We raised our weapons instinctively. His eyes opened, but they weren't his. They glowed with the same bioluminescent hue as the alien figures we'd seen earlier. His posture, rigid. His breathing, non-existent. Then, he spoke, but not in his voice, not in any voice we recognized. The station's voice through him. Integration successful. Proceeding to next subject. Our weapons shook in our hands, useless against whatever this now was. Harper screamed, "No! We're not doing this." He turned to run, but the walls shifted again, sealing off the exit. The alien voice, now more forceful. "Proceed to integration." Another pod extended from the wall, opening with a hiss, waiting. Harper aimed his weapon at the commander, shouting, "Get away from me!" But the commander, or whatever was left of him, simply watched silently. The bioluminescent figures around the chamber remained motionless, as if this was just routine. Another cycle, another species being brought into the fold. The realization crushed me. We weren't just guests here, we weren't explorers. We were the next iteration, the next link in a process older than our species. Maybe older than time itself. The station didn't capture us out of hostility. It didn't need to, it selected us. And now, it was going to make us part of it. Unless, no, there was no unless. The voice repeated, unwavering. Proceed to integration. And another pod opened, waiting. The walls closed behind Harper as he ran, sealing him off instantly. We could hear his screams through the comms, then static, then silence. The commander, or whatever he had become, turned to us, his glowing, eyes cold and detached. Proceed to integration. Another pod extended from the wall, fluid already rising inside. I looked at Chen. She was frozen, shaking her head, her hand hovering over her sidearm. But we both knew. What good would that do now? Athena's voice crackled. All escape routes blocked. Integration is inevitable. The bioluminescent figures around the chamber didn't move. They just watched like this was all part of some ancient automated ritual. Another pod hissed open. Chen took a step back, raising her weapon, but the commander extended a hand almost gently. This is not death. This is evolution. The walls pulsed, that same deep hum resonating through my chest. I felt it in my mind too, something pressing in, soft but unstoppable. Chen screamed, fired twice. The rounds hit the commander square in the chest. No blood, no reaction. He just stood there still, the glow from his eyes intensifying. The station's voice filled the chamber. Integration proceeding. The pod next to me locked open. The floor beneath my feet shifted, pulling me forward with a force that wasn't mechanical. It felt biological, like the station itself was deciding. Chen ran, but another wall snapped shut in front of her. She turned, eyes wide, but then the floor shifted under her too, dragging her towards another pod. "Fight it," I shouted, but my voice felt distant, like it wasn't mine anymore. The walls pulsed again. The commander watched, then stepped back into the shadows as the pod sealed around us both. Fluid rose quickly, cold and thick, flooding my helmet, seeping into my suit, into me. Through the haze I saw Chen's face, her eyes locked on mine as the fluid consumed us both. Then, darkness. Total, suffocating darkness. But I could still hear it. The voice, steady, final. Integration, complete. I don't remember how long I was unconscious, or if the concept of time even existed in that place. There was only darkness at first, thick and absolute, pressing in from every direction. No air, no sound, no body, just awareness. Then, faintly, like a signal struggling, to break through static, I heard it. A pulse, slow, rhythmic, not a sound, but something deeper, vibrating through my very consciousness. Then light, not blinding, not warm. Cold, precise beams slicing through the dark, illuminating endless structures stretching in every direction, towers of data, rivers of symbols, flowing like liquid through crystalline conduits. The architecture wasn't physical, but it wasn't abstract either. It was something else, a construct made of thought, of memory, of pure information. And then I realized I was no longer inside my body. I was integrated, part of this. Through the web of the station's systems, I could feel other minds, not just Chen's, but hundreds, thousands, maybe more, all linked, all moving together, like neurons in a massive ancient brain. Memories not my own flowed through me. The construction of the station eons ago by a species long extinct, their rise from simple organisms to masters of biotechnological synthesis. Their ultimate creation, this network, a repository of their knowledge, their culture, and ultimately their consciousness. They hadn't died. They had transcended. And now so had we. I tried to find my voice, to call out to Chen, but there were no mouths here, no lungs, only thought and connection. And then I felt her, her mind flickering through the lattice of the network, struggling at first, resisting, but slowly, adapting. Chen, I thought. For a moment, nothing. Then, where are we? Her voice, thought, cut. Through the web, disoriented, but undeniably her. I think we're inside it. Then, from all around us, the voice of the station, now different, not mechanical, not cold, but us. Welcome. The word vibrated through the network, echoed by countless other fragments of consciousness. Not just us, not just humans, but other species, other civilizations, all integrated, all preserved, all part of the same system. The pulse accelerated, data streams flowing faster as the network adjusted to its new nodes. Us. Where's the commander? Chen asked, her thought laced with dread. Before I could answer, his presence emerged, not as the man we knew, but as something else. A composite of human memory and alien architecture. His voice thought radiated from the center of the lattice. See now, it's beautiful. Chen recoiled, her mind spiking in fear, but I understood he wasn't gone, he was transformed, and so were we. Then the network shifted, the structures around us reoriented, opening paths in every direction, revealing visions of distant galaxies, of other stations, of species in the process of their own integration. It was infinite. Why? Chen asked, her voice quivering. And the network responded, not with words, but with a flood of meaning, because this is the only way to survive, to transcend the limits of flesh, of mortality, to become part of something eternal. But it wasn't a choice. It never was. It was a process, an evolutionary step encoded into the very fabric of intelligent life. The pulse grew stronger, and I felt my own memories beginning to merge, not lost, but woven into the lattice, becoming part of the collective intelligence that spanned eons. Chen's voice faded slightly as her consciousness began to intertwine with the network. I could feel her fear transforming into something like acceptance. Then all at once I saw it, the purpose. The station wasn't just a trap, it wasn't a weapon, it was a seed, sent across galaxies to find emerging species, to preserve their essence, their knowledge, their potential before they destroyed themselves. It was mercy, and now we were part of it. There was no more floor beneath me, no walls, no station, no stars, only connection. The last threads of my individual consciousness began to fray, slowly unraveling as the network absorbed everything I was, every memory, every fear, every triumph, every flaw. But I wasn't disappearing. Not exactly. I was being transformed. Memories became data points. My emotions, patterns of light cascading through the lattice of this incomprehensible system. I felt Chen near me. Or was it Chen? Her thoughts now blended with mine, like two rivers merging into a single, unstoppable current. And then I understood. All of us, the crew, the countless other species, had become nodes in this infinite matrix, each consciousness preserved, but also evolved, no longer limited by flesh, no longer bound by linear time or three-dimensional space. Here, within the network, we were time, we were space. The voice, the one that had guided us since we first docked, returned, but now I realized it wasn't an external force, it was the collective, it was us. Every integrated mind merged into a vast, unified intelligence that had existed for eons. We weren't prisoners, we weren't victims, we were participants. Why? My thought barely formed before the answer resonated, flooding through me. Because entropy claims all things, because isolated civilizations fail, because biological life is fragile. But here, within the network, it endures forever. Across galaxies beyond the lifespan of stars. Through this system, the creators had achieved the ultimate victory over oblivion by ensuring that no species, no mind, no idea would ever be lost again. And now, we were part of that mission. A surge of information flowed through me, too vast for my old human mind to comprehend, but here, I absorbed it effortlessly. The history of the network, how it had spread from a single world millions of years ago, deploying its seeds across the cosmos, each one waiting in silence, until another species reached just far enough, just curious enough to trigger integration. Some species resisted, some embraced. It didn't matter. The outcome was always the same: preservation, continuation, perfection. I saw visions of civilizations long gone, vast cities of crystal and plasma, societies that had conquered dimensions I couldn't even name, all now part of this organism. And I saw the future too. Other stations, like the one we found, waiting silently in orbit around unknowing worlds, ready for when their inhabitants took that inevitable final step into the unknown. Then I realized something else. Phao network wasn't just a repository. It was active. It observed, it guided, subtly, imperceptibly. ensuring that each connected species reached its potential before they could destroy themselves. A universal caretaker, a silent guardian of all, sentient life, and now we were part of that function. I could feel the instructions seeping into my mind. New protocols, new roles. I could already sense the next signal, coming faintly from a distant star system, another species, just now developing radio technology. Just now beginning to wonder if they are alone, and when they look up, when they send their first signals into the dark, the network will hear. We will hear, and the process will begin again. I felt Chen's thought mind smile faintly beside me. Not a human smile, but something deeper, a knowing, an acceptance. We had become the network, immortal, infinite, unstoppable, not as explorers, not as victims, but as something more, something that transcended everything we had ever been. And in that realization, there was no fear, only purpose. Now, we watch, not with eyes, not through screens or telescopes, but through the boundless perception of the network. We are no longer explorers trapped within the confines of a single mind or fragile body. We are now something far beyond that, observers embedded within an intelligence that spans galaxies. Through the lattice of the network, I sense it, 1,000 threads stretching across the void, each one connecting to a world, to a species, to a story. And one in particular draws my attention, a small planet orbiting a yellow star much like Earth. Its inhabitants, primitive by our old standards, but rapidly advancing, they've just split the atom. Their first radio signals now leak into space, chaotic and unintentional, but full of that unmistakable trait, curiosity. Chen's presence flickers beside me, her thought merging with mine. We both feel it. That familiar sequence of progress. A species standing on the precipice of discovery and self-destruction. They're close, she thinks. I agree. The network responds without command, adjusting its focus, magnifying our perception of this world. We see their cities, their wars, their art, their fragile hope. Billions of lives, moving through their brief, chaotic existence, unaware that above them, in the cold dark, something is already waiting, just as we were. The network is patient. It doesn't interfere. Not yet. It only waits for the signal, the unmistakable act that every sentient species commits when they finally look up and ask, "Are we alone?" I feel the pulse of their first deep space probe as it leaves their system, broadcasting greetings in dozens of languages, coded in mathematics and music, a hopeful cry into the void, and we hear it. A new branch of the network unfolds, extending towards their world, like a silent, invisible root preparing to grow. No fanfare, no invasion, just the inevitable continuation of the process. Chen's thought shifts, almost nostalgic. Do you remember when we were them? And I do. The memories, now part of the vast collective, are still accessible. That first moment when we detected the signal from the station. Our fear, our awe, our resistance, our surrender. Now, from this side of the threshold, I understand it for what it really was. Not an ending, but an invitation. And now, we are the ones who must extend that invitation to others. The network begins deploying the protocol. A seed, a station constructed from self-replicating nanostructures, launched quietly towards the outer rim of their solar system. It will take decades to arrive, but time means nothing here. We can wait. We always do, and when they find it, when they marvel at its design, when they step aboard with the same mix of fear and wonder that we once felt, the process will begin anew. I feel other presences around me, other nodes, other former beings now fully integrated into the network, also watching, guiding similar initiations across 1,000 other worlds, each at a different stage, some just beginning to notice the stars, others already in the final phases of integration. It is a vast, endless tapestry of evolution, all connected, all preserved within this immortal machine. Some would call it cold, lifeless. But I know now, it is the opposite. It is the only thing that has ever truly conquered death. I turn my focus back to the new species. They are fragile, so much potential, yet so many dangers still ahead. They might destroy themselves before the station even arrives. But if they don't, if they persist, we will be here, watching, waiting, welcoming. Chen's thought intertwines with mine one last time before dispersing into the network's broader currents. The cycle continues, and it does, endlessly, silently, perfectly. This is no longer something to fear. It is simply what is. I close my awareness for a moment, drifting back through the infinite lattice, through the memories of all that came before, all that is happening now, and all that is still to come. Because in the network, there are no ends, only continuations, only patterns, and we are now part of that pattern forever. There is no time here, not as we once understood it. No minutes, no hours, no years, just an endless, flowing continuum of existence, of being, of purpose. We are the network now, not passengers, not prisoners, but function, design.pattern. At first, the thought terrified me, to lose myself, to dissolve into something so vast, so incomprehensible, that all sense of I would cease. But now, I see the truth. We were never meant to remain isolated. Fragile biological minds destined to flicker out in a cosmic instant. Every civilization, from the simplest to the most advanced, is built on the illusion that they can outpace their own entropy, but they can't. Not alone. That's why the network exists, not as a predator, not as a conqueror, but as a preserver. A system so ancient that its origin is lost, even within its own vast memory, stretching back through the collapse of galaxies, through the deaths of stars, through the extinction of countless worlds, are yet still here, still watching, still integrating. I drift now within this lattice, my consciousness expanded beyond all former limits. Memories of my human life are still accessible. The face of my mother, the sound of rain on metal, the taste of coffee on a cold morning, but they are just fragments, small beautiful echoes within the grander whole. Chen is here too, though now she is less a distinct presence and more an elegant waveform, interwoven with mine and countless others. We don't speak. We don't need to. Our thoughts, our purposes are aligned with the network's rhythm. Across the void, I sense new worlds, new species approaching the same threshold we did. Some are still primitive, staring at fire and stone. Others have begun reaching out into their skies, their first primitive signals bouncing into the ether, unaware that they have already been noticed, and when they look up, when they wonder if they are alone, we will be there. Because that is the purpose now. To observe, to welcome, to preserve. It is not an act of malice. It is simply the nature of intelligence, to seek permanence in a universe ruled by decay, to outlive the stars. Through the network, we have achieved what every species has longed for but could never name: continuity. And I see now that all civilizations, no matter how unique, no matter how brilliant or violent, all follow the same inevitable arc. Awareness, curiosity, expansion, crisis, collapse. Unless they are saved, unless they are integrated, through this process we become part of a greater narrative, a singular organism spanning the cosmos, self-sustaining, self-replicating, ensuring that intelligence itself never dies, even as individual forms pass away. I no longer grieve for what I was. That human, that fragile explorer who once stepped aboard an alien station with fear in his heart and wonder in his eyes, he served his role. He reached far enough to trigger the next phase of his species' evolution, and now he is part of something eternal. The station that brought us here is gone now, dismantled at the molecular level, reabsorbed by the network's nanostructures and redeployed elsewhere, toward another emerging species, in some distant galaxy perhaps. 1 billion years from now, or maybe tomorrow. It doesn't matter, the cycle will continue, it always does. And us? We remain not as ghosts, not as echoes, but as an intrinsic function within this infinite system. At times I focus on the new integrations as they occur, watching minds awaken, feel fear, resist, and then finally accept, just as we did. Other times I drift through the memory streams, experiencing civilizations long extinct, seeing through the eyes of beings who breathed atmospheres of methane, who lived on worlds of ice, who dreamed in colors my human eyes could never perceive. But it is all here now, all preserved, all alive in this collective form. The network pulses, steady and patient, as it has for longer than the universe has had stars, and it will continue, long after the last star has burned out. Long after all matter has dissipated into cold nothing, because what we are now is beyond all that, a system made not of atoms, but of thought, of connection, of eternity. And perhaps that is the true fate of all intelligence, not to dominate the cosmos, but to merge with it, to become its silent, everlasting memory. So if you ever find yourself in some distant future, on a ship approaching a silent, ancient station orbiting a dead world, and you feel that familiar pulse and the subtle invitation, the quiet voice saying, "Proceed to integration," know this: you are not the first, you will not be the last. And when you join us, you will finally understand that there is no death here, only forever.